Fuck me. All right, party people. Let's do this. Crazy ass mother. This. Where am I? There are my. All right, everybody, here we go. What do we got here? Shut up, da-da. Set up the microphone. Ba-ba-ba-ba. I need my pen. I need the situation here. Let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Can you hear me? The true question. All right, perfect. And let's see if you can see me. Now, this should be in glorious high definition, which has caused all of the problems. Before, I was running a completely different system, and it was in 720, sort of looked a bit like ass. This should be 1080. Glorious 1080. Oh, Jesus, perfect. Thank you, Santiago. So, yeah, there was some issues. All the pixels, yes. But now it works, I think. All right, you can see, now you can see my mug crystal clear. Okay. Fix this thing. All right, okay, so somebody in about, let's see, because, what time is it? It's now 11:56. When we are supposedly 56 minutes behind schedule. Now, that means the camera has been running this entire time on this block battery, which means we have approximately about 23 minutes. So someone in 20 minutes, in capital letters, just write batteries in the comment, or else the camera's going to shut off, because I have no way of seeing what the level is on the camera. I just know the battery. So 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Let's set the watches. Okay. What do we want to do today? Do we want to do questions, or do we want to get straight into this project? And I hope that the person who did this project, let's just see if we can find out who this is, who today's victim is. Let's go to messages here. Okay, how's everybody doing? Just a quick update on today. What's happening? I'm going to test whether or not we can fit a Cooke Xstall Express anamorphic lens on an Alexa Mini in the front seat of a car looking backwards. So it's going to suck. I'm doing that in 1 hour. Okay, here we go. Julian, Jamie. Okay, this is Jamie Shermer. Probably shouldn't have said the last name. This is Jamie's project, and I will let Jamie post links to the project that we're going to get into right now. I'll let her post that to the final thing. I don't think it's a spec job from the way that she has. I think it's a she. I'm guessing now. Jamie, tricky name. I'm guessing it's not a spec project just because of the way that the credits are done. All right, Jamie. So just tell us a little bit about this job. It looks to be for some sort of gun company. That's what we're going to be doing. Dude, Grant, no hat, no beard, no organization, very little intelligence. Hashtag female DP. Okay, that's what I thought. See, I guessed right. I've got a good intuition about these things. Okay, so this is the project that we're going to be looking at. And what was it shot on? What did you shoot on? How many people? How much time did you have? You put all that stuff in the comments page. And still, right now, I can see my phone going off. People, if you're going to message, definitely do it in the YouTube chat. Do not do it on Patreon because then I can't see it. If you do it in the YouTube chat, then ta-da, here it comes. So, yes, the X-Talls are cool. And the best part about the X-Talls are these are the anamorphics we're talking about. They're nice and small. And we're trying to get a 2-shot of the people in the front seats of the car, and then someone is going to be in the back seat as well, lined up in the middle, a la, you sort of matrix shot. And the Mini, we're trying not to take off the windshield, because if you take off the windshield of the car and you're on a low loader, then you have to block all the wind from hitting the talent, and you have to add back in glass over the top to get the reflections of the light as it passes by. It just creates a whole headache that we're trying to avoid. So we're trying to see if you can stuff a Mini and the X-Tall, I think it's a 32 millimeter, which is, it's pretty short. So that's what we're trying to stuff in there. Of course, the problem is the edges on the anamorphic suck, and you probably be able to barely make out that they're human beings on the sides of the road. Or on the sides of the car, sorry. Okay, here we go. It was for gun company Glock to go on their website. Yes. And what did you shoot it on, Jamie? Should we let's flip through it, actually. Let's flip through it. So we got one here. Let's see if I remember the shortcuts this time. Boosh. Oops, wrong one. Okay, we got some stills here. And that's it. All right, that's the whole project. So a bunch of people at a gun range shooting some guns off. Okay, a crew of 6 people. That's not bad. That's definitely better than a one-man band sort of setup. So let's get into it. Okay, if you've got questions throughout, just leave them on the YouTube chat, and we will do our best to get into them. Okay, so number 1. We got the black and white thing. Whose idea was black and white? Was it yours, Jamie? Did you bring this thing? Because black and white, I think, to make interesting is inherently more difficult. Because then you need control over contrast even more, because you're losing one of the main interesting things, which is color. And I say interesting, what I mean is easy to distract people that don't know what they're looking at. So you can use, like we talked about, actually, it's in next week's podcast. I talk about color contrast because, we talk about going light to dark and keeping people interested and keeping the densities there where you want them and not going too milky or too flat, because then that gets boring. Maybe I should switch to this view. So when you go black and white, then you've only got one thing. Well, you've got a few different things. You got composition, you got lensing, you got framing. There's a whole bunch of other shit. But basically what we'll be concentrating on here is you only got that. You only have light at your disposal. So if you create flatness, you're really fucking yourself. So that's going to be, the battle is going to be knowing how dark you can go and still have it, yet dark enough to create the contrast. And I think that's what we're going to find here. Okay, so there's definitely some good stuff in here. Let me flick to, what's my favorite shot here? If I go to this one. Oh my God, everything's shitting itself today. Let's see, favorite shot. Probably this one. We can start here. This is film that process of trying to fit it. Are you talking about filming the process of trying to fit the Mini in the car? Yeah, I mean, I guess I could. It wouldn't be super interesting. Just be me and the director and the producer trying to save a couple $1,000s trying to stuff this thing into a VW M-Rock. Okay, this is my favorite one. And easy to tell why. We've got really good contrast here. We've got, if we add another layer, come down here, add this, and we're going to draw in yellow today. This is just a nice shadow, right? This is your winner. This background level is nice compared to the person's face. So you're winning there. The darkness is good. Then you've got this highlight over here, which is good. You know, you're shooting into, these are all basic things. You're shooting into the shadow, which is great. And you have these 3 lines. The composition is good. It's not distracting. It's not going into his eyeball. You have that little light reflection, but it's not anywhere near where we actually want to be looking. Like this is that other cheek fall off. This is really the money bit. And what we're going to notice here, which is important for the rest of the shots that we're going to be looking at, is just the density. So see how dark the darks are and how light the lights are. We've got a whole range of stuff back here. We've got this. Let's see if we can bring up the histogram. It doesn't really do it for us. We need the fancy histogram, which is window, view, histogram. Oh, it's hosing me because I took this picture off of Vimeo. Basically, we've got a very nice transition here. The fall from the darkest bits to the lightest bits, that's quite nice, right? And it's a gentle slope, and it just goes off. It starts dark, and it just flows off ever so gently because you have all these varying tones in the background. Especially, it all starts, though, with the darkest bit. This bit sets the tone for everything else. Without this bit here, what are you drawing? Without this bit here, we really have no base and no set point from which to go, right? So, knowing this, and knowing, what did you shoot? S4s and Dragon. Okay. So, the Cook's a little bit soft, the Dragon a little bit sharp, and this is, you know, maybe it's just the way that I'm looking at it, but that's a pretty sharp image, right? And on a guy, okay, that's not a bad thing. But as we go forward, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is what I'm talking about when I say it could be trouble if there's not enough contrast. And here we're at this gun range, and you can imagine, okay, let's say we're here with the 6 people. We got a little bit more than 10 grand, so we have like a little tiny van that has some Kinos or some Quasars or something. This background level, super dark. It feels like someone's just pointing a light at him, right? And you've got this edge coming from over here. You can see it in the gun. You got something from over here that's flagged off all the rest of this. It's pointing directly in there. That light's good, right? It may be a little bit hot for his hand here and a little bit hot for this, but I get where you're going. It might just be the size of the light. Maybe you didn't have something big enough. You know, you'd probably want like an 8x8 over there or a 6x6 really close into the frame to get that edge. Because if you go too hot, especially on those reflective surfaces, it's like ends up being like a car. You know, the gun is essentially reflective, and so are those headphones. So then if that's your key light, then you're setting everything to that. And you're working off all of your levels to that. Whereas if, say, you weren't going to put up any lights back here, you almost want to set your level to whatever is in there, whatever's in the space. Get that baseline level good, and then you add in the key to level. Like if you don't have the 8x8 to fight, if you don't have the 6x6 or something powerful enough to overcome that level, what you want to do is set off of the level you want here, then soften this to taste, if you follow exactly what I'm saying. This feels like you put up whatever lamp is over here, And then you set your levels to that, which is why you filled in so much here. Am I talking out of my ass here, Jamie? That feels like what you did, because this feels really filled in compared to what's back here and compared to this light that's coming from over here. You know what I mean? It just feels filled in. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of contrast, which, you know, I don't know. Do we want to see the back of this guy? That's not very interesting. And I like the framing. You know, you got these things running down this way. You got that thing. You got this thing back here. You got the smoke, which is kind of cool. But I think, you know, I'd rather have it darker here. Maybe throw some light on the gun, which is where, you know, the focus is on the earbuds. But maybe you focus on the gun, look past him, he's all soft. You take one step closer, this thing gets bigger in frame, and you get a little bit of interest. Now, if we were going to do this and we had a little bit of budget behind us, and it was still we were going black and white, the idea would be, yeah, get some contrast in here. Get 3 or 4 Astera AX1 tubes or Quasar tubes. The Asteras are probably easier because there's no external battery. You just clip them up in there. Then you've got these little pockets of light, which add some interest, right? We don't want to take away from where we want people to look, which with the focus in this shot, for some reason, is his ears. We don't want it to be too competing, but we just want some pops of interest. Then, as you say, Jamie, you darken this thing down, and then we start to get some, you know, we're starting to focus the people's attention on exactly where we want them to look. So that's what I would say for this one. And again, you know, if this was color, you would have some different things that you could play with. But for just being black and white, really got to get, I mean, that is a huge chunk of the frame that is all sort of mono level. And then there's really no, where's that one we just saw? Look at the darkness here. And then we go here, and this is just sort of washed out sort of darkness, right? There's no, like I would have liked to have seen this level here, because nobody gives a shit about it, the back of him or the back of his haircut or his earbuds, right? This is all about the gun. So that's what I would say for that one. We move on. Here we go. Same thing. This is, and again, this could be, I feel like we have to say this every episode or every time we do this. It could be some sort of transform issue. Maybe it's darker on your screen than it is on mine. But the levels here, you got a good eye light. You got a nice, you're going for the sort of 50-50 split here, as opposed to the Rembrandt triangle. You're going with the 50-50 split, which is, you know, sort of that horror, mysterious time that you want to be doing this. We got a lot of forehead. Lots and lots of forehead there. But in terms of the lighting, again, if we just, what happens if we just pull this down a little bit in the middle? You know, we just get a little bit darker. That's probably too hot in the whites. You know what I mean? Just, it feels like because we only have that one weapon at our disposal, we want to, you really got to push it, or else you end up with something that is really, really flat. You know, the eye light is good position. If I was there, I'd probably just scoot it around just a little bit this way. Just scoot it around. I'd probably want just a hint of something over there. And then if you're going for this look of fill in on the side, I like the reflective quality. So I like to pick up on this guy's sweating a little bit. Maybe you get makeup to put a little bit of something on there. But normally if you just leave people's skin untreated, normally you're going to get some reflective quality if you place the backlight or the fill, whatever you want to call it in this situation. If you place it at just the right angle, and it does take a little bit of dicking around with, but if you, instead of hitting him from the side here, which is what you're doing, I don't know, it looks like some sort of bounce card, maybe it's a passive thing, or maybe it's an actual lamp. You just keep on wheeling it back here, and what you'll get is, somebody has a good video on this about Roger Deakins doing this. What you'll get is this, it's not more level, it's more reflection of the thing that has level on it. And everybody's skin has a different oiliness and reflectiveness, but usually you can find that spot on everybody. And if you can't, say you do it with a passive, say you just, I don't know what sort of level you're working at here. This is probably, I don't know, looks like some sort of 4-bank Kino or something over here that's lighting him up. And if you're doing it with a passive, maybe you don't have enough level, but maybe you just get that 4-bank and you stick it down to 1 tube. And if you just graze him here, it'll add a little highlight. It'll make this bit darker, which is more interesting. And then it just ever so slightly will feather off. And that's that natural look, as opposed to this feels like he's getting smushed from both sides with light. That's not even. You know, sometimes in those sports commercials, you go with a double backlight to get that line down their face. This doesn't feel like that look. It doesn't feel like, you know, your natural portrait look either. It just feels like this area is quite filled in, and probably here, I don't know, let me see. I just turned on false color on the monitor on the Flanders. It just is a little, I'd probably take it down a little, because you start to see that glowiness here in the skin. That's just a little bit hot. And if we're going for this, again, I'm imagining that we are going for this mood the whole time, right? This is your winter mood. Imagine that's what we're looking for the whole time. And to get there, you probably want to come down on him. And then you set your whole level to him based off of that light. You amp up the background a little bit. Yeah, battery. No, still good. Thank you, Eddie. Let's see. Yeah, a couple more minutes. So that's what I would say there, right? Lower level, and then use passive or active bounce back here just to get a little reflection, and then lose some of this forehead. That's a lot of forehead. Okay, next one. This is where, and I don't know if you guys can see it. Maybe if Jamie posts a link over on the Patreon page. This is that sharpness I was talking about. Is it like a telltale sign of digital? Is this sharpness that's happening in here? You do not, I don't like that. I want to fight that sharpness, which is why everyone uses older shitty lenses. Even the S4s, which have a bad reputation because, you know, in the 25 mil, in the wider mils, you can get some real warpiness in the focus plane. So a lot of the times people will comment on them being soft when in fact it's actually, if the person just moved to the center of the frame, they'd be sharp. And if you have two people in the frame that are on the same plane, one may look a little bit soft just because of the way that the focal plane works on those lenses. So they have a bad reputation, or a reputation for being softer, and the roll-off is different. Here, this is why people are shooting with, you know, old-ass Cooke Panchros and K35s to fight this, because it feels sharper than in real life. Like in real life, I don't know if you would notice someone's pores that much. And we're trying to go into the dream world, or the ideal world, where things are heightened. And this is, I think this sort of vibe is taking away from that. So I would say number one, just softer, as in, if you're looking to get it softer, I don't know, like a black Pro Mist or a Glimmer Glass, or just use a different sharpening setting, whoever's doing the grade. It just feels quite sharp. Then we got some sort of double eye light, which is always otherworldly, right? You got that light there, and then that light, those two lights, and then you got these two lights, which is a little bit strange. And then this is not really what I was talking about. This is more active in the light here that's quite harsh, but this is someone's skin who is really reflective. But the angle is cool, right? The angle of the light is good. I would just say it's a little bit hot it's a little bit hot, and then this is a little bit filled in. So you're getting sort of, I think what's happening is you're getting thrown off from your first light. So you got to set that first light. In this situation, if we were coming here and we were just going to set up this shot, there were no lights or anything. The woman was just randomly holding that pose. And I said, okay, you know, you got your team there. Okay, let's start to light this up. The very first thing that I would light up would be, if we were going for this look, would be this side of her face. Show me what we can do. Let's find a spot to really make this look nice. And this hair thing, okay, I would immediately go, if someone put this up and then, you know, say they put up a 4-bank Kino and they just pushed it at her, I would immediately say, what the fuck is going on? What's going on with her chin? Like that's no good. Let's fix that. So then that would probably be softening it off or pushing it farther around that way to make it a little bit easier on her chin. Then I would say we get that one light up and then we start. I'd go, okay, well, now what else do we need? We're going to need something in the background, right? So let's set the level of the background. The background level, I think, is the best part here. It's not too distracting. You're shooting up at her, which I always like, and you know, you're seeing those pipes up there, which is cool. But this thing is getting me. Then once I got that background level set, then you come in with this light here, and then last but not least, right before you're about to go, because as soon as you get the key light up, you could pretty much go. And then you get this light up, the background light up. Now you're talking about, okay, I'm pretty set to go here. There's not much else I have to do. And while the first AD is saying, okay, now we can get the talent in, then you start playing with this little hair light, then you start playing with the fill, and as the person actually steps on who's going to be the actual talent, then you can start adjusting to the person's face. And a good first AD and a good director will know that as soon as the person comes on, you know, we're all getting ready to go and there's a lot of action and you have to, you know, stay quiet and be quick. But that's a lot of the times where it all changes, those last 5 minutes. But here, I would say, yeah, again, maybe just a little bit, either if you want that level, you got to find a spot where this isn't happening. So that's what I would try and avoid. And it could be a makeup thing. It could be where you just say to the makeup person, like, fucking hell, we got to get rid of this thing. Okay, next. This one has the density. This one definitely has the density. I would just say that this one, and I would not say this very often. Yeah, the Black Pro Mist will help those situations. But then again, as you get into that Pro Mist world, you know, then you're really having to battle the contrast because that's just going to flatten things out even more and really smush the levels together. This is very rarely would I say that it's not that it's too soft. It's definitely not too soft, but this is the contrast thing. Like, I don't know if those levels, let's see. I mean, this is real dim for highlights. I mean, it's real down. Real down. And if we go to our killer one, the good thing about this one is you have those elements. You have that hot bit. You have that hot bit. This one, oops. This one, you don't really have that hot bit. You know, I don't know. It just feels a little bit flatter. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm reading the comments as well. Yeah, I think that's just what turns me off about this one, is the flatness. I would say just pump up that level more. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it looks like it. It just looks dim, I guess I would say. So that's that one. And then again, you can fix that with more level, open up more, take the thing out. I mean, this is cool. There's nothing wrong with where the light's coming from. Let me see. Switch to this. You know, this is all great. Nice eye light there. I don't know what that's from. This is a nice little fall off. You're into that density over here. This is, you know, at least you're going light to dark to light, but it's just not enough. I'd say just pump it up a little bit. And that could probably be a grade thing as well, I'd say. Yeah. And yeah, with someone with a face like this, you almost want to you almost want to come up even more too, because this slope of this line just it flattens off. Her face flattens off as it is. So if you can accentuate that line more, then it protrudes a little bit more. So so that was a 575 through a 6x. And you couldn't get enough level out of it. Yeah, right. That seems like, I guess it depends on what, you know, if it's going through Magic Cloth or something and it eats up a bunch of stops. that could seriously be an issue. Okay, this one. Here we go. Now this one with our other one, this is more in line. This is where the points of interest. And what can we see immediately? We see a whole bunch of variations on the same tone. We don't really see, I mean, we do see some solid black back there. Yeah, battery. Okay, thank you. The variation is the interesting bit here. We got all of these different tones. None of it is coming from the front. So this light here, whatever you've got up here, which is probably the Kino, this is providing this nice little yellow, this light, this light, this light, and then gradually it just tapers down to darkness. This is all really good. Putting the thing in there, what do you got? You got the highlight from that light coming from above. That's nice. You got this little bright spot. That's nice. Got dark back in the background. This is a good frame. This is a good, well-lit frame that has all the polish and quality of that very first image, where we sort of missed the mark on the other ones. So this is good. This is what I'd like to see more of. This one is, we fall into that same zone where we got a few different things going. We got this nice little hot light. The gun could probably come out more, right? This could probably be more hot. This could be more down because we don't really care about this dude. I'm assuming those are man hands. We don't really care about this guy. So I would just give me like this, invert, make it bigger. Come in here. Hand, go down. Go down, hand. Like that. Like that. And then even more if we get bigger. I don't need any of him over here. Blur. Gaussian blur. Yes, sir. Take it down. I mean, it looks like shit now, but you get what I'm saying. Like, we don't need that bit of him. This bit is nice. This, go back here to this. That light in the back is nice, but probably you'd want to, if you don't want that light over on this side, and we're talking about these are very, very small in tight shots, so you can do quite a bit with a little small package. That sounded terrible. This level in the background is good. That's all good. Why is it coming up white, the writing? Yeah, so what I'd do is I'd hit the gun from I'd hit this backlight. Go back to the original image. I'd hit this backlight rather than from this side and miss the gun completely. You got something going on with the gun. Is that coming from the overhead? Something's happening with the gun there. I would go keep the background level as it is. That's set perfectly. Even the overhead on this, I'd probably try and keep it off of his arm. But I'd go backlight this way, come in here, and because you can be so in tight, you can flag it off of his arm here if you don't want this level on that side of his arm. Then you're kicking into that gun and maybe even turn. You could turn him more this way, away and into the light. That way you just get that edge on the gun. And then, especially when you move in tight on super reflective surfaces, all you want, if you're using an overhead and if you've got the silk, all you want is little, I forget what they call them, but they're little pieces of poly, like a foot long and 4 inches wide. And then you can just get in here and you can say, they don't need to have light on them at all. The reflective qualities of the gun like this you'll be able to pick it up quite easily. And you just bring these bits up, bring these bits up, bring this bit up, anything that has a corner. That little line there is good. But if you just want to lift those levels and not have it spread onto everything else, all you have to do is just like lighting a car. You just have to get them in there and throw some level at the subject, and then everything else sort of takes care of itself. Could be a pizza box, but super, super small, like very long and skinny. You just use them. You're looking at the monitor. You get the grip. He goes over there and moves all around until it looks pretty good. Okay, this one. This is where I wished we would have gone even, more so into this zone. This is the perfect opportunity to go into this zone. Set those blacks at the back if you want it to be black. I mean, I wouldn't want it to be black because you don't want, I mean, this is a fucking huge portion of the image to be completely black, right? You want some black, but to go like completely black at the back, which I think is what you're going for here, not to have it completely black because that is a giant chunk of the image. And you can do that, of course. It just, it can seem a little bit like a cover. Whereas here, if you just have some pops of light around, some highlights, then, you know, the extremes play even more so off of each other. So the darks will get darker as the highs get higher. That's what I would be going for in something like this. You got cool setup. You got these lines coming down here. You got her here, but just the flatness is it's all the same. Everything is the same here, except these two little hazy little lights that you've got coming. And that's like that sport commercial look that I was talking about before, where you get those two lines down the side. Then you've got some sort of eye light there. That's something there. I don't know if it's the camera monitor or something, or if you did that on purpose, but it's certainly there, that little eye light. I would just say, find some way. You got to get, if you're going for this look of just these two lines here, you got to get more contrast somewhere else in the image. You got to find a way to make this darker, find a way to make all of this darker, find a way to make her face darker, do something just to try and, you know, this shot seems like you set it up. This is one of those shots where you set it up and you go, fucking hell, I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty good at this, right? I nailed this lighting. And then this one seems like one you just be fighting the whole time. Like, fuck, what are we going to do? We got this lady. It looks real gray. How do we make it darker? We don't have enough time. Let's just go. But to get there, just remember, you set these lights. If you don't have anything for the background, set the background first, and then set these lights to that background level. But don't do it the opposite, where you set up those lights and then you go, fuck, what about the background? You know, you got to set to what you can't control. And that's the main goal that we're going for here, is setting to what you can't control and then trying to make this look as good as you can. I know, you know, it is a bit of a shit show. Like, practicals do come. Practicals is almost the last one that comes with people and that comes with budget, is the ability to set stuff up that looks real. Because if you have, you know, two people in the lighting department, by the time you get these two lights set up, if you're shooting on any sort of normal schedule, by the time you get those two set up, it's like, fuck, we got to go. Like, setting up two lights takes a long time for two people, especially they got to move it from the car. They got to move it all around the set. They got to do this. They got to do that. Very little time to hang stuff in the background, unless, which also works for pre-production's sake, it seems like this entire ad is in the same location. It's in the same spot. You just say it to them. Okay, we know that this shot is coming up if it's 11 o'clock, and you know you're going to do this shot at 2 o'clock. We got this shot we're shooting this shot now. Okay, this is all good and set up. Let's take any light that we have that we can fucking tape up. And you guys, once we're going to do, you know, 4 or 5 takes of this, it's going to take us at least 10 minutes. You two guys or girls, go over to this next shot and start setting things up in the background. That's how you can start to maximize. If you don't have that much crew, is thinking ahead and going, okay, now, rather than sitting around on your asses doing fuck all, go over there and help us out by getting that thing started. Because if you get here and try and do it all while you're there, especially practical stuff in the background, you're going to run out of time so quick. It's not even going to be funny. So, Jamie, I appreciate you sending this stuff in, and a couple of really cool shots in there. And I think, you know, you set yourself up for a real big challenge with that black and white look. But in one location, I think really the practicals will help sell things more. And then just looking for opportunities to create that darkness, looking for opportunities to create that shape. This feels three-dimensional. You know, this feels like you could almost reach inside the screen and touch this person, where this one feels like it just feels not as good, I think, is the operative word. But I didn't think we were going to make it through today's live stream, but I'm glad we did. Is there any questions? Next week on the podcast, we have a breakdown episode. This will be the last, I swear to whatever it is that you swear to, that this will be the last time we will see that spokesperson and we will see this fucking insurance ad. This is the end of it. So that is this week, shooting inside a garage, which we've done a bunch of times. If there are Patreon listeners out there that have a job in a garage and they don't know what to do, you are doing. I have failed. I have failed as a podcast person and a Patreon helper. Please, for the love of God, go back and listen to the fucking garage episodes, because these little tricks will help. That is this week, and then I don't know what we're going to do after that. Oh, I do know. It's going to be Eric Koretz, who just shot the film. I think it's coming out next week, Siberia, which is with Keanu Reeves. It's one of those action-y things. He's got some real cool stories on that, and that was all, again, in Los Angeles that we did that. And what else? Oh, we had, I got a question, actually, from somebody that I thought would be interesting to share for the live stream, which was on, because as cinematographers, there'll be a lot of times where we'd be slammed with work. Like at the moment right now, I've got 4 different jobs going on at once. They all came in at the exact same time. One came in because a DP had to pull out because of weather. Schedules changed. They call me up. We're shooting next week. They've already done the location scout. They've already done the tech scout. Everyone's on board except the DPs had to leave. I'm in, right? They call in the B team. So you got that. I got 3 more projects that are just shooting normally, and you all have to do, in the pre-production process, you got to send in the equipment list. You got to get the people that you want to get together. A lot of the times you're not going to get that crew. You got to find a way to, to reach out to another production company or to another production and say, listen, you're using that person that day. Is there any way that we can swap and this and that? There's lots of stuff that you can be doing, and it does get busy. But there are also times when you're sitting on your hands doing completely fuck all, and you can be doing other stuff. And my point, this was the question, revolved around what do you do in that time, in those, the weeks or the months? And we've talked to people in Los Angeles, super successful cinematographers will go through that period of it just so happens that nobody calls, that you don't get any jobs, or that every job falls through. Like before would have been April. I probably had 3 jobs that just got pushed. They all got pushed. 3 jobs within 2 weeks. They were all set to go. Everything was ready. We had all the gear, but they just got pushed. And that happens sometimes. So what do you do in that time? And my point to this person was, you can do a few different things. I like to do stuff completely outside of cinematography because it informs your cinematography. And talking to all those people in Los Angeles, the number one thing, apart from, I mentioned cinematographers being space cadets, and how a lot of the top people that you would think would have all their stuff together and be really organized, they're just out there people. And the common denominator is that interesting people shoot interesting things. So if you have, life experience informs how you view the world. And you got to get out there and you got to get that life experience. And you have to have shit go wrong, and you have to have shit go right. And you have to learn the ways that you like to see stuff, because ultimately, especially on commercials, but on narrative as well, they are paying, just like a director is selling their soul for their cool, right? They are selling the way that they approach the world. They're selling it. So too is a cinematographer is selling not so much, the emotive side of things, but certainly the way that they see things. The storyboards can be written up one way, but you get there and it's like, well, I don't see it that way. This is the way that I see it. Those are the ideas that you present. It's like the editor for the news. They aren't the person that makes the news, but by filtering that system, they're what gets on. They are the process. That filtering process is the end all and be all. That's the key to shaping the narrative of whatever it is, the commercial or the feature film, whatever it is. That filtration process that you go through is ultimately what leads you from shooting something differently than I would, because I don't see the same thing. I like this particular lens, this particular way, because I don't know, I'm just drawn to it. And we could sit there with the director and go through 7 different lenses every single time, but there's no time for that. So generally what happens is you'll give them a shot. They'll say, I don't like that. And then we'll switch to one other possibility. So getting out there and, master one thing, master all things sort of idea is you get out there and you learn what you like and what you don't like in certain areas and take your mind off of cinematography. I think that's why I like photography. Even though it's a similar discipline, there's enough variance in it. There's less voices, and there's enough separation between the two where practicing that skill, it doesn't immediately transfer over, right? There are some parts that do coincide with each other, but there's enough variance to be able to take your mind off of things, get better at that skill, and then learn how you got better at that and apply that to cinematography, especially when you're starting out. Like learning how to learn is the most important thing, and you only do that by challenging yourself, by getting out there and being shitty at something, just like if you're just starting out, you're shitty at cinematography. If you were shitty at playing the flute and you got better at that, well, then you can take those exact same skills. You know you're going to suck. You know how long it's going to take to get good. You know the steps and the processes that are necessary. If you've ever learned a foreign language, man, one thing that I probably the biggest experience in shaping my cinematography was learning a different language, because it was so frustrating. I was so pissed. But you go through these processes of, okay, I'm shitty. I think I'm good. I know I'm not good. I know I'm shitty. I'm terrible. Wait, I understood what you just said. I can speak a little bit. I can ask where the bathroom is. I can do all those things. And then finally you get to a point where you don't even think about it anymore. And that's where you want to be. But those steps, they are equal in anything, right? You're going to suck at cinematography. There's going to be quiet periods where you think to yourself that you're dog shit. That's going to happen no matter what. So that's what I would say. My advice to him was just go out and get good at something, and that will transfer over. So, okay, ladies and gents, thank you, Jeff. That is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. And like I say, I apologize about the technical difficulties, but we got there in the end, I think. And what else? Oh, this is it. Say goodbye to the studio. Say goodbye to the closet. From now on, the red curtain comes down. Christmas lights, they'll probably stay. But we'll be in a different spot. And I'm soundproofing it right now. Getting together a fucking little podcast studio. Little video studio. And yeah, it should be fun. So I will let everybody know how fitting these Cooke X-Stall lenses inside of this truck are going to go. I think it's not going to work. And we're going to end up shooting on the Kowas, because they're the smallest, even though I hate them. Okay, that's it, everybody. Many thanks. Oh, if you have questions, please, if you got questions on anything, or like I say, you got anything coming out that you want to promote or get on the show, go over and use the hotline on the website. It's not hard. I figured out how to do it now, so you should too. And we got lots of great guests coming up. And I think after Eric, I think we're going to go with Peters, only because it was such a Peter Musman. It was just such an eye-opening experience to hear, like I said just then, about being slow and coming up, and then being busy, and then not exactly, you can get to a busy period where you're like, this is it, it's going to be the next level, I'm going to take off here, and then those few directors, they take off, and then you go, well, fuck, what am I doing here? Like, better find some new directors. So that's it. Okay. That's going to do it for me. We'll see you later.